All right, restaurants. We had started initially outdoor seating 6 foot apart with 25% indoor capacity. We are now going effective Monday to operating up to 50% capacity, and a lot of that is based off the spacing of the tables, or if you have some type of partition, because I've had some restaurateurs tell me, hey, I got plexiglass, my booths, I can't move them, but I have plexiglass. That's fine, that's effective. All we're trying to do is create a low-risk environment. And I really appreciate a lot of the folks that own restaurants who have been thinking deeply about this throughout this crisis. A lot stayed open to do takeout, but some didn't. And some are more conducive to dine-in. That's just what they have to do. We also, I think, the outdoor seating has been interesting. You've had some cities where they've closed parts of the street so that people can have more room to do outdoors. And that's just based off the science that this thing is not as transmissible outdoors as indoors in an enclosed environment. So I think that that's something that a lot of the people in the restaurant industry were hoping for. I think it can be done safely. A lot of other states already went to that right off the bat. My initial recommendation was to do 50% for my task force. I wanted to ease into it, but I think that they've really thought well about it. So that'll be effective on Monday. And the same with retail. We started off with 25% of indoor capacity, go to 50%. There's very clear guidance from CDC and OSHA, and I know a lot of the retailers have been doing it. And look, we were doing retail in some form or another this whole time. You had Home Depot open, you have Walmart, you have all these places open. So there's not a whole lot of difference to me between going into a Home Depot or going into a Joann Fabric or some of these other places. I mean, you can do it, and particularly for our smaller mom and pop retailers, you know, very, very important for them to be able to have safe options for their customers. Museums and libraries, 50% capacity. That'll be, local governments can obviously make those calls in terms of the museums and libraries that they're operating. Gyms and fitness centers. So effective Monday, gyms can operate. Make sure that you have respect the social distancing capacity. I would say for some of these places like CrossFit that do outdoor training, that's great. The outdoor stuff, again, that's a lower risk environment in an outdoor than if you're inside a stuffy room in a gym doing something where you're going to potentially be exposed to respiratory droplets. So we would tell people, just like how the restaurants are seating, I've seen people out in CrossFit and all these other ones doing things outside, that's fine. If you're inside, make sure you're doing the social distance and then sanitize machines and surfaces after use. I mean, that should be happening anyways. I mean, if you're sweating on the dip bar, clean the dip bar when you're done doing dips. I mean, come on. But I think it's important, and CDC was really about close the gyms. And I was like, okay, look, I tried to work constructively, but you think about it, this is a respiratory virus that tends to attack people who have some health problems or who aren't as in good physical condition. So don't we want people to be getting exercise? Don't we want people to stay in shape? It's going to actually make them more resistant to severe consequences. So I think this is good. I think it's important, and that'll start on Monday as well. Professional sports venues, I've been vocal the last couple days. Any Florida team, basketball, hockey, baseball, you obviously could train all you want. Basketball, I know the NBA, some of these places are thinking about getting back in. Go ahead and train, no problem. And then once the season starts, you're going to be able to use our venues, use the venues. We want you playing. I've also said to other teams and other leagues is if you have states that simply are not going to budge and allow even competition with no fans. ESPN in the morning now, you watch, they have Korean baseball on. There's nobody in the stands. So how is that? That's not going to bother anybody. So I think it's important that we get sports back up and running. The mayor and I worked on bringing UFC to Jacksonville. And what was happening was UFC was running into problems in California, some of these other places. They wouldn't let them do it. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, they want to fight in an empty arena. They test the people before they go. That is as low risk as you get. And so I said, if you do, I'm 100%. We reach out to UFC. We said, guys, come. And I think it's been very successful. And then now what happens is UFC knows they have a welcome environment here in the state of Florida, just like WWE knows. And we had to cancel WrestleMania in April. That's hundreds of millions of dollars of economic impact. We've allowed them to keep using their training center and film. they know Florida is a good place to be. We're going to get a WrestleMania back here, as soon as we can and get that economic impact. But any of these teams in other states where they're just not going to let them play, we have additional facilities here. I've already spoken to some of the universities, and I think it would be fine if people want to use facilities here. We welcome it. We think it's very important to do and to get back going. And I know some of the leagues are working on when they come back. Baseball maybe July. I know the NBA. Some of the players are talking about we got to get back on it. So we'll see what happens. But we've I think done a good job of welcoming this stuff done. UFC, there's a charity golf match at Seminole Golf Club down in Juno Beach on Sunday. It's going to be on NBC. You got Dustin Johnson, Ricky Fowler, Rory, some of these great players at probably the best, most iconic course in Florida. And then the following Sunday, you got Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. And they're going to do that in Florida too. And both of those events are going to raise millions and millions of dollars for charity. So we're happy that those are being hosted in the state of Florida. Amusement parks. Parks can submit reopening plans to the state. They should identify the date certain that they believe that they could resume safe operations. They have to provide how they're going to do it, how they're going to accommodate the guests, how they're going to protect the staff, and then they need to have an endorsement from the relevant official in their locality, Orange County mayor, wherever you're talking about. I was watching during the middle of March when Disney and Universal were still operating. They had determined that they were going to close, but they said, we're going to keep people here through the weekend because the people have nowhere to go. And I fully supported that decision, but they were doing a lot of stuff even then to promote hygiene and distancing. And so I know that they've been working on this a lot. I know Disney's got a run going on in Shanghai. But my goal on all this is let's keep safety first, but let's work and innovate to get to yes on this stuff. So I can't tell you when this is going to be, but I think that we need to say, come up with your plan, show us what you got, work with your local officials, and then we'll see what we can do. All right, so those are that brings us really into full phase one. I think the only thing we're not doing that the president's guidelines permitted were the movie theaters. And I'm not saying we're never going to do that, but I believe, and I've been a broken record on this, when you're in enclosed indoor environments, the virus is just more transmissible. And so how you would socially distance in there, I'm not saying it can't be done, but I would probably need a little bit more information before I pulled the trigger on that. Of course, drive-through theaters are 100% fine and are virtually no risk. And so we'd encourage people to do the drive-through. So we will look and see with some of the things that were permitted in phase one, like the movie theaters. But I think that this is a good approach. I could have done this right off the bat, but I thought that we want to make sure that we're getting our footing, and I think we have done that. I think people have responded very well, and I want to thank the people of Florida for working really hard over a very difficult period of time. I said 2 weeks ago, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We have a pathway back, and this continues us on that journey. So God bless everyone for all they've done.